just free flowing. I think probably they start off here, they say date of birth, so I suppose we better try and...
July 45.
July 45.
Makes me a youngster in this community.
Yes, you're only a boy. I'm my older brother's older than you. So. And when did you join?
I remember I didn't join until about 1969 it would have been. I'd already been in local government 6 years, but strange enough, none of my Shire clerks ever said, "Oh, do you want to join the IMM?" And sort of,
really?
It didn't come up while I was doing my studies, and I think it was Keith Purdy or someone came along and said, or someone said, "Do you want to join the IMM?" And I'd been going to IMM conferences and seminars in the CQ branch for years.
Really?
But it had just never cropped up, you know.
Right.
People maybe assumed that I was automatically.
Yeah. So originally your life was Beenleigh, that's where you were born, it was Beenleigh. Then how'd you get into local government?
When I finished, I did high school here, then I went to Gatton College. I was going to become a stock inspector. I got mumps and got crook and I didn't pass, so rather than go back and do the exams again, I was filling in time. I thought I was going to be get an apprenticeship as a builder.
Oh, right.
Carpenter, you see, but in Winton, of course, apprenticeship for carpenters were a better scarce than Henstead. Because they didn't come along very often in a place called Winton.
No.
But
so Winton, Winton.
I accidentally fell into local government as a trainee cost clerk.
Oh, right, same as me.
Because that was a job that came up and my dad heard about it at the pub.
Yeah.
He came home and said, "Hey, so-and-so's going to the courthouse and there's a vacancy and they've got one to council." So next morning he trotted me down to see it was Charlie Palmer was the Shire clerk.
Oh, right.
And Charlie Palmer said, "Well, you can come and work for me for $11 a week or £11 a week or whatever it was." He said, "Well, you can go out shearing at young fellas like you and get 30, whatever you want. What's your career going to be?"
Yeah.
I got the message if I wanted security. And I started pretty well pronto.
So that was at Winton?
That was at Winton, and Charlie Palmer was the Shire clerk.
Oh, right.
I started there in March '63.
Rightio. Yeah.
And I stayed there for 3 years. I was basically being a trainee cost clerk. I meant that I was the office junior basically, so doing everything, but in those days the old deputy was still doing his books with a pen and nib.
Oh, yeah.
So I learned how to scratch out false entries with a razor blade and put the correct entries in if I made a mistake.
Yeah.
All from the basics.
Oh, yeah, well, I started Chinchilla, 69.
Yeah.
So you're only 6 years ahead of me from that point of view. So.
But it always stood me in good stead, because in my career, one of the things I've noticed is the people who don't have a good understanding of local government from having come through the ranks, that sometimes they come undone on the superficial experience and knowledge, you know.
Yeah.
So I started in '63, left there in '66. I did 3 years, and one of the senior clerk out there was doing study, which I hadn't even contemplated or even heard about till he said he was doing his studies. I decided to get my ticket.
So we left 66 Winton to go to...
I went to Inglewood.
Oh, Inglewood. Oh,
I've actually put... I'll just give you a hard copy of this for reference for later on, because it's... I had to dig out. I had all my old references except the first one I ever wrote.
Oh.
After that, I learned to copy them. So I wrote out. I did a bit of a summary with the CQ branch. Before I left up there, they were doing a bit of an oral history of CEOs in Central Queensland. And that spells out basically all the progressions I had.
This is excellent. Oh, this is excellent, man.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll say you're Inglewood, then you're in Emerald, Chief Clerk at Waroo. Now, Waroo...
Peter Burrow was Peter Burrow's dad. Peter...
Oh,
Keith was the CEO of Shire Clerk, Keith, his dad. Peter Burrow was his deputy. Peter left and I went there as Chief Clerk to replace him. Right. I didn't have my ticket then, but I sat my exams while I was at Waroo.
Now that's based at where?
Surat.
Yeah. Oh, good. Now, when you say Peter Burrow, that's not Peter that ended up over at Bundy.
He was president of the LGMA at one stage. That's right. Same Peter. We crossed paths quite frequently over the years. He actually bought a motel in Rockhampton at one stage when he retired.
All right, yeah. So that's so it was when you were at Waroo.
I did my certificate, did my final exams.
All right, so at
I think I was about one of the last ones that went through under that system or something like that.
Oh yeah, because I only started in '69. And I started that whole certificate thing. Yeah. At the time, I curse it because I got involved in a bloody dance band.
Oh,
I was playing keyboards. And so consequently, I was out every Friday and Saturday night playing gigs. And then I went and study sort of took a second sort of thing, because I was, and I probably regret it to a degree because I never got round to home and sort of getting my degree then till I was coming up 50. Yeah. I was here at Logan back in the 90s, and that's when I started. So I was a very late bloomer. So, but so you got your certificate, Shire Clerks, wasn't it? The Shire Clerk certificate in what 1970?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. That's Roo Emerald. Oh,
So I went back to Emerald because I'd worked for Trevor. Inglewood. That was Surat. I went from Emerald to Surat.
Yeah.
I went from Inglewood to Emerald.
Yeah.
And then from Emerald to Surat.
Yeah.
And then Trevor Donovan, the Shire Clerk at Emerald, rang up one day and said, "Hey," he said, "do you want a job?" It was deputy. He said, "My deputy's gone." So he invited me back to Emerald.
Oh,
right.
right.
I was only doing finance when I was here the first time.
Oh, so you started off chief clerk, and then you came back as deputy Shire Clerk.
Yeah. And I walked in the door and he said, "Things have changed since I spoke to you." He said, "I've resigned. I'm going to work for Utah as their town development manager in their coal mining towns. And you'll be acting Shire Clerk."
Oh, really?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Talking about the deep end.
Oh, truly. But it's been in the right place. But that wasn't that time ago. Like I looked 79 was when I became first employee over here at Logan because I was working at the desert.
So you went
and so therefore, like I was right stuck into the, into the deep end. And Gary Keller was basically he was only an advisor to the councillors, based on the fact that he was working for the local government department. Yeah. But then because he'd applied for the deputy's job, they then had to sort of get someone else in, and we got Maury Tucker to come in there. So you were then at Shire Clerk at Peak Downs, 70. Peak Downs, that's
Capella, just north of Emerald.
Capella, yes.
Keith Purdy came in following Trevor Donovan as the Shire Clerk at Emerald. That created a vacancy. In the meantime, I haven't done that because I went away and worked down. I was going to do some extra studies. I came to Brisbane and worked for a steel merchants, William Adras, for a little while. So I dropped out of Emerald to come down there.
Yeah.
And while I was, when I was down there, I was then I decided I was going to go back. So I went and worked at Cleveland for a little while. And one day Keith Purdy from Emerald rang up and said, he said, "My old hometown's got a vacancy. The last fella didn't last. He messed the place up. If you want the job, it's yours." He talked to his old councillor, so he rang up and he said, "If you want to give a Shire Clerk, come back to Peak Downs."
Oh, so Peak Downs is basically Emerald.
Peak Downs is north of Emerald.
Oh, right. Yeah. All right.
It was it had a great reputation as a training ground for Shire Clerks in those days.
Yeah.
Little bush council, really good councillors.
Yeah, because I'm trying to think
quite a few clerks passed through there.
I'm trying to think of young Rodney Ferguson. Where did he go through? He was with Durham. Stour. Where was
that's Duringa.
Duringa, that's where.
East of Emerald,
That's where Rodney went, because Rodney was actually he left Logan. I remember pretty well. We appointed him as the deputy rates clerk or something, senior rates clerk, and he literally was. He was one of those young fellas that just, in terms of advancement, just jumps through the ropes like you wouldn't believe, and it's all because he took on the, going out to Duringa.
That's right,
and through there he's become
great learning curve in those small places.
Oh hell yeah!
So Keith Purdy came down to him. He was an applicant for the clerk job. I didn't apply for that one because with my limited experience, it was too big a job for me to even contemplate.
Yeah.
But he came down to Emerald. I worked with him for a while. Then I shot down here to do some studies, and then he rang up one day and said, "Hey, where I came from has got the vacancy because the guy there had made a real mess of things." So I went back to started to Peak Downs. I was there for 8 years, my learning curve.
All right, So that was So this is Peak Downs. Is the learning curve. Okay. Yeah.
And true to their word, they were really great. I made some real little blunders there,
Yeah.
I hadn't been there long, and the first half yearly rates notice went out. Only the girls had calculated on the floor, hadn't divided the rate by 2, so the rate notice went out for 100%. You can imagine the phone calls I got next day. From the chairman and others, what's this? The rates have gone up 100%. I realised then after that. First lesson, check and double check. Don't assume that people are doing the job know what they're doing, because they've been there for years. And I was the newcomer. I thought, she said, "Well, I've done them all. They're balanced, the valuations balanced. Great. Never thought to check her." So I had a couple of notable stuff up. That was the first one.
Rate notices for full year instead of 2 half years. Yeah. Well, I'm going to say, yeah, but as you said.
It's a logical one. And then the second one was a political interface blunder. We had the place had a lot of old machinery, and they had machinery sitting in the yards, trucks and loaders and things like that from the previous days. And they'd keep them around for spares, you see.
Yeah.
But then the Ruby, the sapphire mining business west of Emerald kicked in.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
the local hotelier and his family, they were into earth moving out there. They came along one day and said, "Hey, you want to sell some of that old gear? You know, we'd make a good price for that." So. Yeah. And so I said, "Oh, that sounds like a good idea," but I never thought to talk to my council about it. I just I thought, well, there's money to be made in this to get that money and upgrade our current gear, and we've got to be ahead.
Yeah.
So I put the notice in the paper, and when the meeting came along, I tabled all the offers. No. The council said, "Hey, we don't remember talking about this and agreeing to sell any machinery." I realised then that I had preempted.
Oh right.
Without consulting, so. But they accepted the offers, and it was great. We sold loaders and trucks and reinvested in good machinery, and we never went back.
Yeah.
But it was just
it was
naive.
Yeah, naivety.
That's what it was about.
Yeah. Oh, good.
So, but anyway, that was they were terribly forgiving.
Yeah.
And generally speaking, they went along with you, and you only saw the Shire chairman once or twice a week max.
Oh right.
Those in those country places.
Yeah.
I had a terribly good stint there, and it was while I was there that the BHP people started knocking on our door because they wanted to open the North Gregory coal mine to the east of us in some of our grazing country.
So. And that was the BHP, isn't it?
That was BHP.
Yeah,
and
the North Gregory mine.
That was the first one in that area.
And that's coal, wasn't it?
That was coal. So they came along and they had mapped out where their mine was going to be and how they were going to get there and the roads that they wanted to upgrade and things like that. And they came and made representation of the council. We said, "Can't build the road there, it's totally impractical. It's flooding and the material and things like that." So we suggested a much better route, which actually in many cases followed undeveloped road reserves, which would mean that the country was cheaper to access.
Yeah.
And on top of that, we put our wedge in and said, and we will offer to construct it at a certain price.
Yeah.
And we did a good deal. They got a good route, and we got the contracts for major earthworks and road construction. So that was the start of a big turnaround.
Oh, right.
But the thing that I noticed about the negotiators from BHP is there was always an absent authority. They never could commit on the spot. Always had to go away and see the GM or somebody else. They never had authority to make a deal, you see. We realised after a while this was always a negotiating tactic, No one ever had authority to commit. They'd go away and come back with a counter offer. But in that process, and the road had only just started construction when I left because I saw a job advertised as town manager for Camalco at Weeper.
All right.
And after having my appetite whet with these negotiations with the BHP mob, I thought, well, it'd be interesting to look at going and doing something else. So I threw my hat in the ring for the job as town manager at Weeper, which was the first local government appointee. They'd always used in-house managers.
Yeah.
Because they ran the Weeper town as a department of the mining operation.
So town manager of BHP.
Of Weeper for Camalco.
Oh, Weeper.
So I put my hat in the ring, and it took about 7 months. It was an awfully protracted process by the time you go up there and they whittle through it. But, so I went up there, and so meant leaving local government because Camalco actually had a separate piece of legislation to administer Weeper as a town. They had the CAC Weeper Act in about 1966, I think it went through. And so it was administered under a separate bit of legislation, and Camalco was appointed as the local government for that area, for that town. Interesting.
Oh, right.
But anyway, I brought a copy of the reference from the. Thought I'd just give a copy of the reference.
Thank you.
The reference I got from the manager there who wrote it when I left him, to show you the sort of things that I did.
Yeah.
And I thought that could.
That'll be good to just.
Because I went there and I was a bit naive. I was fairly conversant with the local government side of things, but it wasn't until I got there that I fully realised the extent of my other responsibilities. Because I was the landlord of all their houses. Of all their single quarters, contractors' camps. We ran the supermarket and the gift shop and the post office. And we owned all the commercial premises and all the industrial premises and leased them out. And there was a lot more, and and administering the contracts for the single people's camps.
Oh, wow.
And that sort of thing. So it was a real eye-opener.
Yeah.
in terms of mine, and I'd never really been in an industrially sensitive situation in those days.
Yeah.
Even the MOA was a bit of a pussycat.
Oh, yeah.
But I got up there and the one big faux pas I made up there was I caused a one-day strike not long after I got there.
Yeah.
Because they had rules on who could live in their contractors' camp, which was the industrial side of the thing. And those rules govern things like having women and dogs in their huts and things like that.
Yeah.
All I did was reprint the rules and publicise them and say, hey, we're going to enforce these rules.
Yeah.
And there was nothing wrong with doing that, except I never consulted anybody. Second time in my life. Because I used to have a union site committee on site who personnel always consulted, said, we're going to breathe and we're going to exhale and things like this. And that was always, let everyone know what was. I just reviewed the rules, pretty much said, hey, we mean business. And of course, next day, down tools, all the down tools.
Yeah.
Only contractor type was fair camp.
All right.
So the whole, and with you down the contractors, it downs an awful lot of the operation. So, but as the general manager said, everyone, he said, is allowed one mistake on this site.
Yeah.
Simple as that. That was my first and last.
Yeah.
Having come out of a non-sensitive industrial climate, it never occurred to me.
Learn
But the company just grinned and bore it, you know.
Yeah.
And said,
So that was just an interesting concept, though. As you said, they were allowed weeper. It was the government made an act.
Yep.
To create.
That's right.
Okay, and what was that act again?
What was the title of it now? It's a 1966 legislation. Actually, Alan Sewell, whose name you'd remember in early days, was actually instrumental in drawing it up.
Yeah. All right.
The Weeper CAC Act of 1966 was something very similar.
Weeper CAC.
Camalco Aluminium Corporation.
Yeah.
So it gave them the power to make bylaws and all those things. So part of my role there was to look at that act and look at the introduction of bylaws and how they might progress to eventually make it administered by a town committee, you see. Which would provide for the act. So I thought, well, that was going to not be too difficult. When I got there and found all these other ancillary duties would occupy a great percentage of the time. Things like while we're there, we used to run the supermarket, but while we're there, we negotiated with Woolworths to come and we built a whole new shopping centre and leased it them and closed down the old supermarket. Things like that happened during that time, you know. So it's all in that letter there anyway.
Yeah, so that's oh wow,
all that references you wrote me.
Oh, that's excellent, man.
So it's all there. So things like that, they were good learning curves.
Oh hell yeah! Like throwing in the deep end, and you just had to do it. That's well. That's why I always reckon Logan was a good thing for me because again, we were starting this local authority from scratch thing, and so therefore. We sort of had a bit of an advantage, and it's why I think in our early years we did very well because we weren't sort of like I always felt by Desert Shire when I worked for them. They just sort of steeped in that history shit. That sort of made life, you know, like people wouldn't do stuff because that wasn't how it was done in a past life. Whereas we didn't have that in Logan. We just had to set up a rate system, set up a town planning scheme, set up a this, you know, like fair enough we had to take into account a bit of the shit from their previous histories, but in another way it was new and it was exciting, and so so this is where I see this as in Weeper. You were thrown into a thing, but you know it was sink or swim, and you basically common sense rules.
You learn to take the initiative. Sometimes you get a bit of egg on your face, but more often than not, it's great fun, isn't it?
Oh yeah, you know, like gee.
Logan's testimony to that. I mean, it's a rocky road, but it's come a long way.
Oh shit, yeah, you know. Like, this wasn't here.
That's right.
Then, you know, like gee, you know, it's just so here started last now. I've got your history there. So basically, you went to Shire Clark down at Cambodia.
Yeah, that was getting back from Plummer like Weeper. The guys that had been up to Thursday Island or New Guinea used to say it's awfully difficult to come back into the system once you've been out of it.
Yeah.
People forget you and think, they've lost touch with what's happening.
All right. Yeah.
I went back to Cambodia for 3 years. It was good.
Yeah.
Really good there. Yeah. And then lo and behold, Livingston came up. Well,
wow.
Competing against a lot of my old mates from central Queensland for that one.
Oh wow!
Yeah. Some of them were a bit browned off, but
you got that. So I'm just trying to think. Last role and what you enjoyed.
My last role full time was CEO. I retired there in
Yeah.
It wasn't actually. I might just give you a copy of
Yeah.
Bill Hubbard, the mayor's
Yeah.
final references.
Yeah, at Livingston. But that's quite... You had quite a stint, like 87 to 2003.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I went there following, there was what they called the Tony Rowe affair, where the council sacked their shire engineer. And he'd taken them to court and beaten them and things like that. And,
really?
But he was still living in the place and giving them hell. And
Yeah.
at the elections, he would come through, and his little followers, and he'd stand, and he'd be there as a scrutineer, and he'd be giving me courage, saying objecting to this and objecting to that. And I'd just say, and I'd be at the returning office, I'd just say noted and keep going. He said, aren't you going to write it down? I said, you just make your objections, I'll note them.
Yeah.
And that was it. But he persisted on that for a couple of elections after that. We got on okay, he gave it away, but the personality conflict within the council, between council and this part of the community, was something awful. So
yeah,
that was
you basically, I suppose, was involved at the council when the council sacked, was it?
No, I went there afterwards when the mess. I followed Bill Cass, who was the shire clerk, and but they were still suffering the consequences of this. Bill Cass, he retired.
CASS. Yeah.
And actually Noel, his son, I don't know whether he's still working, he used to be out in the west at Bullion and those places.
Oh, right.
He was actually also on the super board, I think.
Oh, right.
But Bill retired, and I succeeded him. He'd been there for a long, long time, but he was there when that thing. But it was a very emotional and stressful thing within the community.
Yeah.
Because they both had the council. Some of the councillors were on one side and some on the other.
Yeah.
And he was there stirring the pot all the while. He was.
And who was that fellow? That was
Tony Rowe, ROWE. He'd been a show engineer at Bohemia.
Oh,
so,
right.
but anyway, he was aggrieved, and I couldn't take sides. I could just say, well, I've got to just do my job.
Yeah.
But after a while, it got down, and we were quite amicable. Our relationship was quite amicable.
You managed.
I just had to keep an even keel, you know.
Yeah.
Treat him fairly, and do my job, you know.
Who was the new CEO? Who was the new engineer they appointed in place of him then?
He was followed by what's his name? Who went to Boona? Pat. Just I think his name. Pat might come back to me later. But he was the deputy. He got promoted, and then he eventually went to Boona as head of engineering over there. He did very well, from what I understand. But he was working some of the pain of that affair as well.
Yeah.
I can't remember his last name. But anyway.
Moved on.
We moved on and the place grew.
Yeah.
So I was full time. I finished there in 2003, and then I went off and did locums around the state for the next 5 years.
Carpentaria, and then it's Georgetown.
It's funny with Carpentaria. I went there to. I just finished using up my long service leave, and I came to the final local government conference, and the LGA, Alan Vincent came over and said, he said, Carpentaria wants an acting CEO because until the new one gets, can you go up there? And I rang them there. I was a conference on Friday, and I start up there on Monday. But I went to Carpentaria with just a computer in one hand and a suitcase in the other. And I did the stint up there, and I was invited back 4 times after that because CEOs came and went, and CEOs got there, and they had their first woman CEO, and she got in a mess after 6 months, so she asked me to come back and work as a consultant. So I used to have a flat rate. So I charged for 36 hours, doesn't matter what hours I worked, and that was it, you know, and I would do anything.
Croydon, you went up there too.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think, who's the guy up there now?
He's what's his name? Bill from what's
Bill, Bill.
But I'd gone across to
Gander.
I'd gone across to what's name? Georgetown first.
Yeah.
When what's name? He went out to Longreach. What was his name? Anyway. So I went to Georgetown, and while I was there, the CEO from. She was a lady from Croydon. She said, can you come and leave? Well, I have leave. And so I went home and did 8 or 9 weeks at Croydon. Then I went back to Normanton.
Right,
And then Bill followed this lady when she resigned from Croydon.
Oh, that's Kim. Was it Kim? Kim? No.
I don't know, anyway.
Yeah,
she had a husband. The best thing about Croydon was the fact he said that the council buys Foxtel TV for the whole town because they can't get reception. He said you should see the nude news at midnight. But anyway, so I went down to Gander, do a relief stint there. While I was there, Greg Wallace from Perry got me to go over there and do a stint for him. And then when I did a stint, he said, can you come back and do some of the contracts? On contract, he said, write up the size, shape and sustainability stuff for the council, you know. So while I was there, I did that, and I got called back periodically to Carpentaria for the next 3 replacements.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so I bounced in and out of the place at Carpentaria, but the last time they'd invited me back, I already committed to Mount Perry, so I couldn't go. That was the last time I went to.
Yeah.
Four students were up there was good. I think nearly 2 years at Carpentaria.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, fair dinkum.
It was good.
Good. So
Yeah.
you've sort of done, so really from 2008 really till now, you've sort of, and I said it was only what?
Well, that was 5 years I did that relief, and then in 2008, which was the eve of the amalgamations, I retired completely.
Oh, right, so it's
That's when I
2008.
Yeah.
Well, you did 2008 or 2018, I think you...
What's it? Oh, rightio, yeah, 2008.
Eight, yeah. Okay.
So I've been retired now for 10 years.
Yes, so 2000...
My wife was cook and I decided I'd stay home, and then we moved
2008, and that more or less was the beginning of the...
That was the eve of the elections for amalgamation.
Oh, right, so to 2000, so you did 2003, 2008, you did the Carpentaria, Georgetown, Croydon, Gayndah, Mount Perry stints, and then in 2008 was the eve of the things, and it came at a time that, you could see that...
my wife was failing, health was failing.
Yeah, do you mind me mentioning her name?
No,
What's her
Gloria.
name? Gloria, because that's, a lot of these guys will know you and Gloria as a...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but the thing I noticed during the locums was that was really where my experience right through the ranks of local government came into its own. Because, for instance, when I was up at Carpentaria, the roads clerk had to go off on leave. I did her job.
Oh, right, yeah.
And I said to her, she's doing the rates. And I said, have you balanced, have you reconciled the valuations?
Yeah.
And what's that? Why do you have to do that? Basic stuff, to make sure you've got it. Because, well, she said, they send us advice with the changes to valuation, we just do it. It's automatically assumed it's all right.
Yeah.
Didn't balance, of course.
Oh, no. Oh,
but
God.
Because I was doing for a while, I was acting technical officer in the engineering department.
Yeah.
But no matter where I went,
Yeah.
I found people who'd come into local government without any prior, and they were just doing what they were told.
Yeah.
And I was able to sort of straighten some things out and shed a bit of light on why we do things, on processes. So I had to learn to type, whereas I'd always relied on my secretaries to do most of the typing. I had to sort of get my computer skills up to scratch again to work the systems for levying rates and things like that, But it was, I reckon, it was a really good way to wind down a career in local government. I spent my whole life in it.
Yeah.
And that was from my point of view. Mount Perry was probably the jewel in the crown. Just the little community, the lifestyle.
Yeah.
One of the things I disliked about amalgamation was that those places were going to be sacrificed on the altar of advancement of local government.
Yeah.
And it happened that way.
Yeah. And you look at was it a success? Was the amalgamation a success? I don't know. You still look at your niches up there that have done. They've decided to separate, maintain themselves, and. It's the community of interest thing. It's like, in some ways it can be considered to have been, less is more, but I look out west where I came from, out in Chinchilla, that community, Dalby, extending out to Taroom, over to Tara, down to, it's like, there is still tension in the air.
Oh, there is. Well, Livingston got approval to break away again from after the amalgamation process. So, and there was a number that have done that. But I was terribly disillusioned because I'd always sort of, if you like, trusted the directors and ministers for local government. Yeah. And when it came to amalgamation, I was just so disillusioned that they could tell such utter lies. In Parliament with the Minister and the Premier about what had happened in the process and why it was needed. I just lost absolute faith in the political wing of our government, state government, absolutely, So.
Yeah, the way it was just done so bloody we didn't know a thing about it. The way they snuck it in.
That's right, they snuck it in, and but I just couldn't. I just couldn't believe that they would betray the people that by just even lying in Parliament, about what they had done and said. I agreed that in fact they were never going to get the agreement from local government itself to do what they wanted to do.
No.
And the shape of sustainability process would have brought some change and some benefits, but not on the scale the government was doing. So if they wanted that scale, that they had to do it politically, but they didn't have to lie about why they were doing it, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, the book that they put out, they couldn't afford all these subsidies to the Western Shires, so they're going to restructure it, but nothing happened to the Western Shires anyway.
Yeah.
And they had to fix up the town planning in a place like Miriamvale, but they had the powers anyway.
Yeah.
But they just that sort of thing, the process, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was probably the most
interesting bloody time.
Oh, they were.
I'm just trying to see now my questions that I was supposed to follow. So and I probably just sort of as the personal note there, because there will be people that want to hear. When you lost Gloria, how long ago is that? That's
March 2016. Yeah.
Oh, March 2016. But there will be some that it's significant in terms
so we moved here, and I spend my days. Basically, I'm the dog's a legacy from Gloria. Promise to look up. That's it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have one. But I found a role here. I've always had time. I always like doing gardening and landscape gardening, things like that, and handyman work at home. So my days are basically taken up. I do volunteer gardening and handyman work around the village.
All right, volunteer gardening and handiwork, eh? Handiwork around the retirement village. What do they call it around? What's this one called?
It's the Southern Cross village at Eden's Landing.
Oh, Southern Cross.
So we have about 50 odd nursing home rooms over the road. Yeah. We have 65 independent living units. So it's a nice, compact and small village. So I do gardening in all the public gardens. I've done about half the private gardens as well now. That I just hop in and dig out tree stumps or prune hedges or weed, things like that. You know. So it's good because I get a chance to talk to a lot of people. Some people never come out of their homes.
It's the other thing, you know, like we've got to do stuff. I've just got back from a bloody holiday in Western Australia and I whacked on bloody 10 kilos.
I've only just got back from there too.
Really?
I went over on the Indian Pacific.
Oh, did you?
I went across to Perth, then I hired a motorhome for 4 days and covered all that southwest corner.
Oh, yeah.
Waves Rock, Albany, Augusta, Fremantle, the whole thing. 1,500 kilometres.
My wines from Margaret River arrived this morning.
Is that right? But I'd never been there before, and I was totally impressed with Western Australia and Perth and the Indian Pacific.
Well, see, we started Darwin a month ago, and we sort of did a travel marble tour because I'm sort of thinking it's such long distances through there. So that way it was handy to be on the bus, as I said. You're just doing boring bus trips, but there was nothing else. You just got to do the distance to get to the bloody towns.
That's the reality.
But we did. We went right from Darwin through a lot of gorges and had a much ball. But funny, my dad was he only died last year. He was 99. Southern Cross out in Chinchilla.
Oh yeah.
At the Allura village out there.
Okay.
So Southern Cross. So
it's a good village, and I
reckon.
I get 5 or 6 hours a day quite comfortably. Then I do a morning at the Anglican Church, the same sort of stuff. Then I recently started. I go to the primary school and do a Friday morning there.
All right.
Because they don't have a lot of time, so I go in and help them with their gardens.
And at the primary school down here at
Eden's Landing,
that's good. Yeah.
That's just something I've recently committed to. So.
That's volunteering.
No. Stops you thinking about yourself too much. You get to help do just little things.
Well, last year I took up bloody bridge because I live just literally. I can walk to the Surfers Paradise Bridge Club. So I started to learn that because I used to play 500 all my life, and then I just decided to sort of do that. And then got involved at a young fella that a friend of ours, he's single dad, but he's got kids going to Surfers Paradise Primary School, and suddenly I picked myself up as I'm treasurer at the bloody primary school. And, it just sort of.
But you need something outside your own life.
And then
the old chef up here, he runs the kitchen and teaches class. He does the gardening in his own time. He said, I can't believe it. Just to know that I'm not on my own on this. It's amazing. He said the difference it makes to me.
No, that's
so it's good.
That's it's got to keep your mind active. As I said, we're too young,
that's right.
Now that's what you enjoy now. Role models. Who would? Well, obviously you
Charlie Palmer being my first one. Obviously, you have to count because Charlie ran a good ship and he was very very organised.
Yeah,
he was a very organised guy and he was involved in the community. So he was a good role model.
Yeah.
But just his style,
Yeah.
and and he demonstrated by his own life that he moved to Longreach and he came down like Grants Commission, things like that.
Yeah.
Just sort of, you can see that
Yeah.
you're not locked inside. There are options out there,
Yeah. Well,
So
was he with the Grants Commission? He was a Grants.
He was a commissioner, an advisor, then he was a commissioner eventually.
Yeah. Yeah. No, just
But
not
he was good.
Um,
And then of course CKP, Keith Purdy, who came in from Capella to be Shire Clerk. He was very pragmatic. He was at Emerald basically for the rest of his life.
Purdie.
That's right, yeah.
Keith Purdy, and he was what, Shire Clerk?
He was a Shire Clerk at Peak Downs and Emerald.
Yeah.
So I had a bit to do with Keith, but it was rather funny, he'd come from Peak Downs, and they used to, in those early days, they rented houses to foremen, people like that, to encourage them to come. And got to the stage where one of the foremen came along and said, "Oh, I want to buy this house." And I looked at the file, and then I went back to Keith, saw Keith had been the one drawn up. I said to him, "I've got a bit of a dilemma." I said, "You've given this foreman a contract to buy the house, an option to buy the house, but that without, where does the council have it? It hasn't going out to tender, you see."
Yeah.
Well, he says, "You're obviously in the position, aren't you? You can either risk being sued for breach of contract, or you can just have a minor oversight of the Local Government Act." I told the council, obviously we wanted the contract, but that was his life in small places, different solutions to different problems. And he never got hung up on protocol, but he's always a bit of a wag. But he sort of taught me to not take things too serious, but certainly follow the law and do things right, but
different solutions.
Yeah, absolutely.
In today's world, they'd call that being innovative.
They would, or they'd have you up before the Commission. But he was good,
it was innovative, but
very pragmatic.
But in that day, who'd you say there you'd be? But in the previous time, you would have been brought up.
In the current day and age, you'd probably end up before the Commission, wouldn't you? Crime and Corruption Commission, not following the letter of the law,
Yeah.
I think of some of the things that are happening now, and I think some of them are, they're not motivated for the right reasons. And they may not even be sustained, but the people have been found guilty before they've even got to court.
That's right. Yeah. Oh, no.
Who knows?
So, so there's your role models, so Keith and
Charlie Palmer,
Grants Commission Commissioner.
Yep.
And main changes
there's been such a raft. I think probably the first thing I noticed in terms of change while I was at Capella, they started getting stuck into this town planning. A town plan for a little place like Capella. I wonder what the dickens on it, but the town planning started to come of age, I guess, in those areas in the 60s while I was there.
Yeah.
Or 70s it was rather. Yep.
Age in the 70s,
And then we had from an industrial point of view, I think the EBAs upset the apple cart completely with councils industrially.
Yeah.
Because it was such a protracted thing and people trying to work out what it was all about and what you have when you run out of things to negotiate about, things like that.
EBAs,
And then in the 90s there was the deregulation of qualifications starting with the CEOs. And I personally know why they wanted to go to CEOs, but I think there was a certain attachment to the old titles of Shire Clerk, Town Clerk,
SCs and CEOs,
So there was that, and then the new Local Government Act, which gave effect to a whole raft of new things, like the changed relationships between councils and their employees, where they were supposed to go through their CEO, and it cost a few CEOs their heads. Because the council didn't like being said, well, you can't interfere. Some CEOs didn't do it very astutely. They just said, well, I'm the boss here. You can't talk to my employees. And I think one of the others that had a big impact was the intro of the Marbos legislation on native title. Protracted negotiations that became necessary every time you want to cough and breathe over native title land.
Native title.
And I found that particularly when I went up north into the real Aboriginal country, like Carpentaria, and it turned out that the solicitors were the ones who were pulling all the strings. But the protracted process became necessary. And then of course that was followed by the size, shape and sustainability process. In the late 90s.
Shape and sustainability,
early 2000s. Followed of course by the amalgamations in 2008.
And the amalgamations.
So there's a raft of stuff that happened.
So they're the main.
They're the ones that mainly
changes.
affected me. I know there's a lot of accounting changes, and I was glad I had an accountant by the time I got to Livingston because I was able to pass the buck to him and say, you sort all this out, all the rural accounting, all those things that had to change, you know.
Accounting changes have had been a big a big influence in LG accounting, LG financial administration, I guess you'd call it.
That's right.
Their highlight stories. Well, you're sort of giving me quite a
few
there. And the low lights, the worst about
about
being
I think the worst thing about Labor government career was probably something that I didn't really appreciate enough. Was that we married when we were 20 and 21, and we started having a family straight away. And we had 7 kids almost in a row. And there's the demands on family and the stress that go with it. And learning how to manage that, you know. Of course, it's okay to say, I've got to go to the office, I've got this on, I've got that on, and the wife left to pick up the bundle. And I think that probably part of the reason she had health problems in later life.
So wife.
But I think that
wife was left with the home duties and raising children, isn't it? Duties and raising children, because your time basically just
the demands on time at the office and in the community, council meetings,
demands
conferences, seminars, the whole thing.
At the office and in the community, Unity, sort of has had its
it takes its toll.
It takes its toll. Your 7 children. What's their names? Just so we can give them a knowledge of. Just their first names.
Wayne,
W-A-Y-N-E.
Leisha, L-E-I-S-H-A. Evan, E-V-A-N.
Evan, E-V-A-N.
Warren.
Warren.
Karen. 2 girls.
All right.
Michael. And S-T-E-V-E-N.
Michael and Stephen.
That's it. So now I've got 12 grandchildren.
And just 12 grandchildren.
That's enough. Oh, I've got 13 coming in a couple of months. And my first great grandson in a couple of months. So. It's expanding.
And a 13th on the way. And 1 great grandchildren one grandchild on the way. Oh God! It's funny. I always sort of tell my daughters that I said, "You're not going to don't make me a grandfather before I'm 60." Thank God I managed to sort of get that in the 50 when I was in my 60th year. I was 59 and Tara gave me my first little granddaughter. So I said, that's okay. So it just sort of means that I'm sort of thinking to try and get a great granddaughter now. It's going to be probably
bit of a challenge.
Tara's only 9, so I suppose she could bloody have one in 10 years' time, and I'll be bloody 80. But I'm just sort of thinking.
Well, the thing I found out around here, I've just got to be a little bit careful who I'm talking to because some of them haven't got any grandkids, and some of their kids have died, and you've got to be very careful and sensitive that you don't sort of inadvertently talk too much about them, you know. So, but anyway, I think the other low light in the career, the thing that I found difficult was the political interference, which tended to be worse in the larger. I mean, Livingston's political interference. I didn't find a problem in any of the small bush councils.
No, but in
where the stakes politically are much bigger.
In the larger LAs, where stake, and then I think that's pretty where stakes are much bigger, eh?
Much bigger and more immediate, I think. You know, well, I want it done now, as the mayor would say, you know. And they just happen to talk to someone they shouldn't to and tell them they want it done now. And they'd get upset.
Can be a low light in the industry. I know what you mean. And a CEO, here we are, the CEO, what worked for you?
Okay, well I think probably one of the things that worked for me best in the whole career was the management by walking about concept.
Right, worked best. Management...
By walking about, where you get to see and meet your staff. And that does, of course, mean that you just need to be a bit receptive and we seem to be responsive too, rather than everything comes to you and you swallow it like a postbox and nothing happens.
Yeah.
But I think that and that's right
receptive.
through from trainees to the other managers, you know.
To your staff needs, but walking about, being around,
That's right.
Walking the walk, as it were.
It is walking the talk. Yeah, that's right.
Walking the talk, really,
That's
isn't
right.
it? Walking the talk.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you go,
Yeah.
if you drop into their office and have a chat,
Yeah.
it means water. And then if they've got to come and see you in your office on your seat or throne on your power page all the time, you know, it shows that you acknowledge them.
Yeah,
you know.
acknowledging them.
So I think that, and then when you're doing that, you can encourage, you can facilitate opportunities for staff for their development and using their own initiative. And that I think that paid dividends to me, because I found, particularly with the managers, that if I facilitate and encourage them, not all the right ideas came from my office, a lot of them came from the staff.
Yeah.
And if they knew that you were receptive and you would help them to achieve the better ones, that just made so much better.
Yeah.
You know, I think particularly at Livingston, that's a lot of the good improvements we made there, with the fact that the staff had that, they were able to use their initiative.
Yeah.
And,
where was that made?
At Livingston, the big one.
Yeah.
Because up until then, there'd been small offices for me, and really everyone looked to you for all the leadership. Whereas in the other places, they all had their own departments, you know.
You need to rely on your staff's your staff's
and support them,
your staff and support,
And the other thing that worked particularly at Livingston was the community information consultation process. We used to get around the different districts each year and see what's happening and tell them what's happening at our end and things like that. So
consultation, move around you.
That's right.
Move around the community.
Yep.
Hey,
change about myself.
Yeah, where are we up to?
What do we have to change about myself and your?
Oh yeah.
I think the first thing I had to do, particularly when I came into big areas, was to reduce my involvement in operations.
Yeah.
And focus more on management and planning.
Reduce operational approach, eh?
Yep.
And was it
and use the other professions more fully and effectively, you know.
Yeah.
The first thing that struck me when I went to Livingston, whenever I'd been in the small accounts, I always had a key to the council depot.
Yeah.
And when I was down there, I said to when I went to Yeppoon, I said to the overseer one day, I said, I need to get a key to the depot. He said, what for? He said, anything you want, just tell me and I'll organise and do it or get it for you.
Yeah.
And I had to think.
Yeah.
But he just sort of pulled me up and made me think. And I realised then that I'd come from the bush.
Yeah.
I had to change my style, you know.
Yeah.
So there was that involvement. I think the other one that became very apparent, particularly in the 90s, was that continuous self-learning and development. I mean, there's just so many seminars and things to go to, but there was just so much change happening. You couldn't afford to sit back and watch it float past you.
Continuous learning and development.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was one of the continuous learning and development.
And the third one there that I had to learn was to become more politically sensitive and astute.
All right.
To manage that interface, and also my relationship with them in terms of working out what the real agendas were rather than the superficial agendas.
Become more political sensitive. Yeah, become more political sensitive, and would you say
astute.
Astute.
In recognising the real agendas.
Yeah.
From the superficial ones.
Real agendas from the superficial. Superficial ones. Yeah.
And that probably was in the next one, which was the most difficult part of my role. That was.
Yeah. Change that page now.
Was really managing that political interface, primarily between councillors and staff.
Managing. What was the most difficult? Right,
yeah.
Sorry.
And the second part was people rate also was managing staff and personnel conflicts.
Managing.
It was always the people, the material things I never had much trouble with, even the community. But when it comes down to councillors and staff,
personal conflicts.
Yeah.
yeah. What was it? That was 2 you had.
Yeah.
It's managing, that's 1 and 2. Yeah,
Yeah, that's the most difficult. Most of the other stuff is mechanical or just a commitment to doing it, whereas this one, you had that variable of people all the time, you know.
Yeah, personal conflicts.
I can always remember someone coming back for a conference, and they'd said they'd run into my old boss, first boss Charlie Palmer at the conference, and said I was doing well.
Yeah.
And just after I had long started at Livingston, he said, well, wait, give him time. He said, wait till you see how he goes on managing his people. He said, that'll be the real acid test.
All right.
And I thought, truer words never spoken, because that proved to be the real challenge. In the bush, small groups, no trouble at all. Everyone's dependent. Bigger groups, you get all these huddles.
Yeah.
But anyway,
small councils, easier versus larger is people get into it's cliques and groups.
That's right.
Large groups and managing that dynamic. All right. I'll see it. Okay, that's probably the best one. And best thing about having a local government clear.
Yeah,
now, what does
as a community service? As a community service, got to be the A1 option out of state, local, and federal. I think I think local's got to have hands down in terms of the areas that you can get involved in that direct interface with the public. You see them right up. The people who drive on the roads are the ones that walk in your door, the ones with the potholes, the ones with the drains. The ones with the bitches about town planning or building inspectors, they walk in your front door.
And
I think it's that
direct contact.
Community service. So as a community service, it's got to be tops of the 3, I reckon.
And community service, the human interface.
And then the same thing with the organisation interface and support, and seeing people achieve their goals, and often surprisingly so. You see a trainee walk in the door, 12 months later, you look at that same trainee. They're wearing makeup, their hair's done, they've got good clothes on, self-esteem flowing out of their veins, And the same people who get projects.
Self-development of your staff. Is a rewarding and is a thing that the staff trainee is an example.
I always remember with the trainee, one of the guys who worked for us with the plumber, and he came in one day because his daughter's traineeship was near at the end, and he came in to ask a favour if we could consider his girl for the permanent job. And I said, you could have saved yourself the trip. I said, he was from David just down the road as well. I said, she's earned the job. I said, have a stop and look at your daughter. She doesn't really need. I said, it's nice you've come, but she doesn't really need an advocate because she's standing on her own 2 feet, And I just saw that happen so often with young trainees who came in. Give them a go, support them, and see them develop.
Support and development of your staff.
And that pays off huge dividends.
Okay. And now, has it changed? This is
absolutely. But for the better? Question mark.
Absolutely.
I have mixed feelings on that.
For the better? Question mark.
See, I never. And I still. I have hassles about. I was proud to be a Shire clerk. I wasn't so proud to be a CEO and lumped in with everybody else. And in my later years, as I moved around, I saw CEOs who had put the hard word on councils because they held a CEO title. And I was used to the old Shire clerks who basically they were happy to work for what they got out of the award and a bit, things like that. But I just found that CEOs were lumping themselves in with the CEOs of other organisations. So I was proud of the old Shire clerk title. That's just a personal thing.
That's I think that's coming. Oh, and now the advice to newcomers. What do you think now?
I think no matter
hearing your thing there, though, saying you started at the basis and you understood your organisation, that would obviously have to be. Like if you're saying, even a CEO needs to get down to grassroots. So you say
I've seen them walk in at the top level. They might manage something else, but they haven't a clue of what the other people should be doing. It might work in a big organisation, but in the bush it doesn't. I saw the problem up in the little places I did locums in. Where someone walked in who hadn't a clue what it was about, so they couldn't help their staff if they ran into trouble with their rates or something else. They just knew about management,
And
Yeah.
so getting down to the grassroots, knowing your organisation from the bottom up.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah, organisation from the bottom up. Because I always, as I said, I myself started off as a cost clerk, and I was out doing the payroll, then getting to know the outside guys, and you learnt then what the local authority is really about versus you come into these big ones, like I look at the young ones coming over here to Logan, and they're starting, say, in the rates department, or they start in the environmental department, they sort of start in this little thing, but they don't understand that there's a thing around about the rubbish and collecting the rates and getting the bloody stuff disposed of and all. And so it's getting to know the entirety, I suppose, of the...
And you can actually appreciate what they're doing because you've been somewhere close and done the same thing yourself. You've got a better understanding of how the organisation functions, and what their people are going through. No, that sounds, and it's from the bottom up, But I think the other thing is that it doesn't really matter in this day and age what your skills or interests are. There's almost certainly a role in local government somewhere that you can adapt to.
Right.
There's just a vast array of opportunities.
There is a vast array.
That's in modern day local government. I mean, there's just so much you can do, and the support networks and the opportunities are there. Because if you get in there and you talk to people about what you want to do, there's going to be someone in the organisation who's been there, done it, who can give you a bit of guidance,
Networks. And this is where you can say you can be sort of like look at the local LGMA.
Yeah, that's right.
And
there's so many things are involved in it,